Yeah, there's so many things that obviously have happened to us over the last 12 months. I guess if we cast our mind back to what do we call it now? Lockdown one, when the market effectively completely shut and then completely restarted. And I don't think our industry has ever had to face that before. We've always dealt with lots of disruption, like WLTP and big changes to VED and BIK, but we've never seen anything like that, and it was just crazy. I think crazy for us, for manufacturers, for supply, dealers, and also for our entire vehicle service, supply, logistics chain. So it really tested a lot of what we do as an industry. I think thematically, digital really came to the fore, and I think when we look at the work we do with our broker partners, I think our brokers really saw some strength in their models. Actually, they were able to, to move remote quite effectively, and of course because they're running an entire experience where they never sit down face to face with the customer. Certainly the recovery out of lockdown one was almost tailor-made for the broker market, and I think they've done really well. But we've had loads of disruption. We've had disruption to logistics, disruption to servicing. We've had to deal with so many different segments of our customer base who've had different experiences. So in our corporate fleet, you can imagine the customers involved in travel and leisure and hospitality, have been really, pretty much put on their backs, and that continues into 2021. So as a business, we've had to, deal with this sort of, famine to feast scenario with both vehicle procurement and supply, de-hire, but also servicing, and that really tested us. And at the same time, we put the entire business to 90+% home working. So I think flexibility has probably been the thing that's been tested most, and resilience. Resilience of people, but resilience of the business model. And I'm grateful that in Lex we've got a lot of scale, we've got a lot of capability, and we have managed to cope. But there were periods where our service was out of the appetite we would want to put it in. We've had really understanding relationships with brokers through those difficult times. But whenever the market's been open, we've been open. We've never furloughed a single employee through this. We've kept everybody on the pitch, supporting our customers, supporting our partners, our corporates. So yeah, we can learn a lot. I think just going back to corporates though, we did a lot on forbearance. We gave forbearance options to over 150 corporate clients. I think we're getting up now to almost 20,000 personal leasing customers. And that's been a really important lifeline. And on the corporate side, it was effectively tailoring that forbearance to the needs of the corporate. And then as they've recovered, helping them, get back onto their feet as best we can. So yeah, lots that we had to change very, very quickly. And we'll probably come on and talk about sustainability, separately. So yeah, forbearance, changes in working patterns for us and our clients. A big shift to demand for private transport, which is, I think, helped and certainly helped on the broker side, and a lot of push for more digital services. So yeah. I think it's worth remembering a lot of companies came into 2020 needing to do some fairly sizable policy review work, some of which have been delayed through WLTP in 2019, and also getting certainty from the government on vehicle duty and BIK. So we kind of came into 2020 knowing that policy reviews would be, foremost, and obviously, and I think COVID's actually accelerated that work. So the big word I'd put alongside flexibility is sustainability, and that's driven a lot of policy review work. And for some clients, it's also meant going from a sort of a rental comparison model to a whole life comparison model, because of course, if you're moving to a BEV strategy, whole life becomes even more important when you're trying to look at the relative merits. So that's dominated. And we've done a lot of work in helping our clients understand what a sustainability shift means to them on a personalized basis, because it's not the same for everybody. Hybrids need to play a much more important role in some fleets than others. So that's really been about just continuing the approach we always try and do, which is to tailor what the services we offer. But I think from a corporate sustainability perspective, we've seen so many corporate clients this year putting sustainability much further up their agenda, combining that with that all-important cost dynamic you talk about. And our job has been to help them, try and get the win-win from those two things. How do we help you become more sustainable and transition your fleet to a more sustainable model, but also help you address some of those cost challenges? And of course, COVID's put those even more at the top. So that's been a big theme. And then, as I said, sector-specific impacts have been really, really significant. And then I think the other thing that we've done in 2020, which I think in hindsight was a risk, but we came into 2020 determined to do it, and we didn't let COVID stop us, was we created some new segmentation for our fleet, and effectively moved to a 3-segment model. So an essential model, which is predominantly at smaller clients, more remote servicing, more digital services, a managed model, which is for the bulk of our sort of bigger clients, and then a fully outsourced model where our job is to do everything in effect. And so we kind of put that implementation through our entire corporate base in 2020 in the middle of COVID, which had loads of challenges, lots of remote relationship management handover, and starting new relationships between new people and our clients. And we could have not done that. We could have said, we can't do it in COVID, but we decided, no, actually, COVID is teaching us a way of working that we need to get used to, and we need to become really effective at. So we did it, and we're pleased we have, and it sets us up really, really well for 2021. I think, and it also helps us with the development of our own people, because they kind of develop that really important tacit knowledge of areas like sort of professional business services or financial services, construction, and so that will be a really important part of our model going forwards. So I'm glad we made that change, and that's all about us maximizing our knowledge of the dynamics of the sector that our clients work in, so that we can kind of marry our expertise and their dynamics and try and come up with the best possible solutions for what they need. So it's a really important part of our go forward proposition. Yeah. Significantly, obviously, the commercial side of our fleet is huge, and again, there's a lot of specialist needs, bespoke build outs. So talking about those logistics challenges that we had, but also being able to deal with all of that remotely. So that remains a fundamental part of our proposition, and we've had to find ways to do it, to do more of that remotely this year. But I think aligned to both the segmentation and then the sector specialisms, that will remain a really important part of our proposition. The commercial fleet carries a lot of bespoking, and it always will, I think, and so it's very important that we have the specialisms to bring. We've got a team of 8 engineers that remains. Obviously, they've had to learn to work more remotely as well, and that's brought benefits actually. How we do that, and then bring some more remote work technology to help it, and hopefully we can serve more clients with that sort of proposition actually, because of some of those changes. Well, I mean, I guess the first one is relief. We were all really worried about, I think, 2 things. One is the impact, obviously, the pound's impact of tariffs, and the second was just the disruptive impact to supply. So, and we've got a deal that I think provides some comfort on both. Although we do fundamentally now have more paperwork involved in moving either finished product or raw materials between the UK and the rest of Europe. So it will have an impact. But the tariff, the no tariff position was key, and then the rules of origin definitions that were agreed, including those all important transitions on that helps with battery production or BEVs. That was essential, because otherwise we'd have had a no tariff deal, but then the rules of origin would have put a lot of vehicles offside in terms of where they would have defined have been manufactured from. And I don't think people necessarily understood how important those rules of origin changes were. And that actually sets the UK up with, I think, a challenge and an opportunity when it comes to things like batteries. It's really saying you've got a period of time to transition before you source your major BEV components, i.e. the batteries and the motors, before you source them within the walls of the EU. And if Britain is smart, it will absolutely seize that opportunity. I think we've had one battery factory confirmed in the northeast. We need more of that, that technology, and it plays to the UK's technical dominance of engineering, automotive engineering, for 100 years. So we just have to seize that, and and if we do, it'll put UK auto manufacturing in a strong place, both as a finished product supplier, but also a supplier to the rest of Europe. So I'm pleased. I guess most importantly, I'm relieved. I'm pleased. I think we can finally just move beyond that now, and then hopefully move beyond lockdown 3 at some point, and maybe we'll see a big resurgence at some point. I think digital will continue to be important, and digital transformation isn't just about taking processes that are done, face to face or voice to voice and making them digital. You've got to rethink the journey. When you do that, you've got to think about the breakout part, because you'll always have customers going through a journey who'll need someone to speak to. So our model is very much, we keep this business a relationship-based business. We use digital to take the pain out of journeys and give really simple, easy digital solutions where that's all that's needed. I want to book my vehicle in. I don't need to talk to somebody. I just want to do it. I want to do it with, 3 or 4 or 5 clicks, and I want to know it's done. And whereas if I've got a complex commercial fleet need, I want to talk to somebody. And I'd say, I think for us, it's about reconfiguring our business to make the absolute best of digital, so the experience improves for the customer in there. But to keep at its heart our sort of core model, which is a relationship-based business. I think sustainability will kind of grow in its impact. So, I think we're going to see a market in the UK and in Europe that's going to continue to be what I would call very regulation-driven. So both incentive and penalty, we're going to see continued efforts to regulate our way to high BEV adoption. The fleet sector is so primed to do that, not just for corporates, but also how we can give corporates things like salary sacrifice and what we call car choices propositions for their non-car fleet employees. That gives them a great deal, helps drive that sustainability agenda, and as a corporate, you've got a better employee proposition as well. So salary sacrifice is going to be really important, and I think the challenge actually in the next few years will be probably getting enough BEVs into the market. One of the big things we're calling for to the UK government is you've got to make the UK an attractive place to put supply, because everybody's going through the same curve. Now, the fact that we've set a 2030 goal on ICE ban is a really important step. I think the fact that we've recognised that full hybrids, i.e. self-driving electric hybrids, have a role, and I believe they do. is important. We've got to back it up with more infrastructure investment. We've got to keep some commitment on incentivization to help customers get in to these vehicles, both fleet and private. But sustainability is going to become, going to remain high on the list. But I think it will be more pervasive in how it impacts consumers. And then I think linked to COVID and sustainability, I do think we'll see different sort of usage or ownership contract models emerging. If you're a corporate coming out of COVID, your view on what your fleet size needs to be over the next few years is probably going to have more volatility than it did, in February 2020. And so I think, bringing a solution that can allow our clients to look at, more of a modular combination of different types of, rental agreements that can play to their model. The other dynamic for sustainability is, can you share assets better as well? And that also points to possibly different leasing solutions. Pay as you drive could be a solution. So in the product development space, I think there's a lot of interesting things that could evolve as well. Let's assume that we're going to be in a lockdown till the spring, because whether it's full or partial, we probably will be. I think the good news, as I said at the start of this lockdown, is the car market is operational. Logistics are operational. Servicing's operational. We can still take orders. We can still supply vehicles. We can do all of that with the right COVID social distancing requirements in place. And so we've got the ability to keep the market moving, and that's really, really important. And that's why lockdown 3 is still very different to lockdown 1. When you take it to a corporate level, the impact will be very different because of the sectoral impacts. So some customers may need more support and help, and we expect that, and we sort of we gear ourselves up. Some may want to delay buying decisions, and that of course develops the need for extended fleet and extended hire options. And we saw that significantly last year, and we expect it to happen again. But again, we're ready, and we're kind of geared up to do that. I think then the interesting thing is what happens beyond the spring. I do think, and when you look at the economic indicators, when you look at what households have been doing in terms of levels of saving, the amount of debt that has been paid down, I think the conditions are there for quite a significant economic bounce. And it will probably not start till the summer, but once it starts, there's a lot of pent up demand. We're a 70+% consumer economy, so but when I look at the conditions for consumers, some will always have been severely hit by COVID, but you have a large number of consumers out there, large number of households who spent a lot less, have probably earned about the same or maybe a little bit less, but actually they've got a lot of disposable sort of money, and actually have got a lot of things that they haven't been able to do for what will be almost a year and a half. So we need to get through this period. We need to remember that the darkest period of the night is always the hour before dawn, and that's what I feel we're in. But beyond that, I think there's a great opportunity. I think the auto sector will bounce. I think there's great opportunities for brokers. And then with corporates, for us, it's about understanding how do they want to sort of release back into a kind of post-COVID world, and how can we help them do that? Yeah, so I think car choices is important. Sort of bringing PCH and green salary sacrifice together so that we can support fleets, but also customers, beyond the fleet. And we've got over 2 million, sort of employees that aren't within a fleet but are part of our corporate base. So there's massive opportunity in there. Excuse me. That relies on, fully digitized propositions. It relies on, helping those employers, take and sort of market and present those opportunities to their employees. And then I think from a data perspective, with our clients, it's using the data. I think using more connected data to help them understand where they are on that sustainability curve. So how is their emissions performance changing? How can we help them improve it where it needs improving? And that then sets corporates up with the sorts of ambitions that corporates are having to make on what they're doing to their own carbon footprint. So we can be a real kind of data-driven source of support for the commitments that they then make to their investors. So those two things are really, really important. We're also doing a lot of journey transformation. In fact, the biggest investment that I'm putting in any part of my businesses next year is in Lex Autolease journey transformation. We've picked our 5 biggest journeys, and we're already in the thick of doing some quite significant re-engineering work, which very simply put is to improve the customer's experience of going through those journeys. So obvious journeys like onboarding, end of contract vehicle returns, billing and payments, and some of the key journeys in vehicle service management. So that's a really exciting agenda for us. It will take us, we'll be delivering that in waves, and I think it's something that the business has been trying to do for a while, and we've done bits of it. This is a much more comprehensive, set of transformations. So I'm super excited about what that will give to our clients, and also give to the business. It makes a better proposition for our colleagues as well. I think the progression to 2030 is not linear. So there's some really important green shoots. So if you look at the scale of pure BEV and full hybrid sales towards the end of last year, I think hybrids and BEV combined outstripped diesel sales for the first time ever in, I think it was November, and that continued into December. That's just, what a milestone that is. It's phenomenal. But the journey from here to 2030 won't be linear. I think if you look at the Committee for Climate Change, which is probably the most important body of policy influence to the government, what that actually says is the adoption curve has to accelerate. So you can't go linear. What they're saying is you actually got to go ahead of a linear. So you need more of an S curve if you kind of depict that shape. So you've got to increase that acceleration between now and 2025. So if you pose that question, then we're behind. And I think the prime reason we're behind is infrastructure charging. We need more consistent pattern of UK electric charging infrastructure. We've got to remember that something like a third of all households don't have a drive. Not every employer has enough charging. I own a hybrid, and I've trialed a number of BEVs. I live in the Northwest. It's just not good enough. So we have to rapidly accelerate that investment in EV infrastructure, because it's not about range now. It's about charge. That's the first thing. And then the other really important journey that the UK's got to go on is decarbonising electricity generation. And it's made, I think it's one of the sort of quiet successes of the last decade. It's made huge strides. You compare us to someone like China. China's well ahead on BEV adoption, but if you look at how they're producing their power, it's coal. Not all, but a big part of it, for example, is still coal-fired. So you've just changed where the emissions are coming from. The UK's got to drive its renewable energy policy as well, and the decarbonisation of power generation. Those two things are essential, and those two things are the things that we've got to really drive in the next 5 years. And then allied to that, incentives. There's still good. I think the UK is the third best in Europe in terms of incentivization of EV sales, but it's all on new cars. That's disproportionate. We've got to create a vibrant used car BEV market, and we've still got this challenge that list prices for BEVs are still quite a bit higher than they are for ICE vehicles. So so regulating sort of to penalise, but also regulating to incentivise has got to remain really high on the agenda if we're going to get anywhere near the adoption curve we need. Well, the first thing I'd like to do is thank them, because the vast majority of our customers have been with us for a long period of time. I think in the last year we actually doubled our sort of new client wins as well. In a period of disruption like COVID. So I'd like to welcome our new customers on board as well. And our goal is simple: to keep every customer we have, and to keep bringing new customers to our sort of story. And that story is, I've already mentioned, it's a relationship driven model, but it's a model that we're going to digitize so that we've got great journeys for both drivers and clients, bring a data driven approach to how we help our corporate customers fulfill their needs, particularly when it comes to managing cost and also transitioning on sustainability. And we'll continue to keep trying to respond to what our clients need, bring new products and propositions to market. And I think if we do all of that and maintain that discipline of a relationship-based model, hopefully we'll be able to serve our corporate customers well for years to come.